Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this weekly Mindly Wellbeing webinar. We talk about a number of topics, things that we don't want to talk about. However, when we speak about them, they really have an impact on us. My name is Jeev Sahoo like Yahoo. I run one of the projects called Mindly Wellbeing. I started doing this mainly because life happened, and long back I lost somebody and did not get enough support. And everybody around me, including the healthcare professionals, mentioned everything is fine, and I was fine. However, I primarily needed to speak with someone. And once I did that, life really changed. Later, I got qualified as a counselor, and even though I run my own businesses and have so many other things going on, I still talk about emotional and mental health in that particular sequence so that we can stop being shy about these topics. These are topics which really help us in life, and it's high time that we talk even more openly and freely. The main reason I mentioned emotional and mental well-being in that order is because it always starts with emotions. Even before it can become so-called mental health issue, there are things that can be prevented much before. You can see on the bottom right, there is a link to ask me questions anonymously. And this I of course I do get some spam because it is anonymous, but this creates a very safe way for all of us to ask questions, and every Tuesday I answer these questions, and the recordings are available on YouTube for free. Today's discussion is around founders and hidden general anxiety. And I do have a list of questions next to me. I will aim to answer all these questions in a generic way so that we don't divulge who has asked these questions. However, I'm making sure that the question that has been asked is getting answered. Now, one of the key reasons why I have focused on founders is, first of all, I am a founder myself. I interact with a lot of founders. I have invested in certain companies, and being an investor gives you the frontline seat to meet founders as well. And when we go through speaking with founders, we always see confidence. And on purpose, I did use the word always, mainly because that's how it is. I have rarely seen a founder who is raising fund, is looking for customer, and is being extremely shy or and being successful at the same time. I mean, that combination somehow has eluded me. We definitely have such people out there. However, whether it is true or not, founders showcase confidence. But is that confidence always the truth? Don't we all have situations where we might have bereavement, we might have money issues, we might have physical health issues, and so forth? General anxiety comes from a variety of reasons, and hence, being a founder does not make us any immune to any of these issues. The joke we used to have is, don't you think people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos have a mental unwell-being day and they need something to take care of it? That's the truth of it. Now, what exactly is general anxiety? In simple words, without using any jargon. The simplest summary I have found to explain generalized anxiety is uncontrollable worry. There are about 9 kinds of anxiety, and without going into jargon, general anxiety is the first symptom, I would say, if not the simplest symptom. However, this is the place where when you go and meet someone, they might see that you are completely fine. It doesn't show that well. It shows in hidden ways where you're always busy, where you're worrying about things that you're not able to control. It starts manifesting itself in physical health issues as well, lack of sleep, excessive dependence on coffee or smoking and so forth, or any similar addiction, because addictions can be of a variety of kinds. I have seen people really addicted to work because that gave them that the same feeling that someone else got it from a cigarette. And people might not get it, but yeah, that addiction was doing its job. And when it becomes uncontrollable, we have a problem. If you have been following other workshops, we have the anxiety distraction cycle we show, where you feel some version of fear, some version of hesitation, some version of panic or whatever, and we take a break. We watch something on Facebook, we watch something on YouTube or Netflix, forget things, eat something, and then it comes back. And because we haven't fixed the original problem, the situation again comes back. And this time, for two reasons. One is the situation might have become worse. And secondly, because we didn't fix anything, we might have been less prepared, hence making us weak enough to face the same situation. It looks even a bigger monster to deal with. And if it goes on and on, there comes a time when we definitely need help and we need to use that. How does it relate to founders? And when I say founders, I'm including small businesses, I'm including tech founders, including someone who has created a new charity, any new initiative. The characteristics are same. Um, Leaders who are leading companies, even if they did not found the company themselves, they do go through similar kind of situation. But let's use the founder as a common term. Founders and directors deal with huge amount of responsibility. And I can actually hear people saying that, don't you think that the rest of the team also shares huge amount of responsibility? There was a joke where, I mean, it was not really a joke, but a way of saying it. And someone was asking, who is going to be the CEO in this particular founding team when there were three people trying to create a team. And one of the remarks was, when things go really wrong, the founder and the director is the ultimate responsible person in there. If things are illegal, that's the person who might end up in jail. That's the person who might end up losing all the money. Of course, nearly everyone else who is involved in such a risky venture might lose as well. But the relative weight of responsibility is much higher. Now, many times that responsibility is not visible and it's all in the head of the person, and that starts creating huge amount of pressure to perform. There is a lot at stake, both personally and financially. A huge amount of uncertainty and risk, especially when you're running a business. When you're running a new business, it's even worse, which is why more than, I mean, more than 90% of businesses can fail in year one. And if you have crossed year two, congratulations. And there are different kind of situation, but life does not stop becoming challenging. The uncertainties can be of a variety of kinds, because uh, the founder or the director is looking at every aspect of the business. As a team member, you might be looking at marketing or finance and so forth. Of course, all of it is connected, but these people are looking at every aspect. In many cases, in fact, I was looking at the statistics for UK. There are more than 1 million companies which are mainly 1 million, one-person director roles. I mean, I'm not even talking about self trading or self-employed trading, but they are directors of limited companies, but the entire company is one person. And this person has to deal with accounting, this person has to do with marketing. You might say that, of course, their size is small and so forth, and they are just started. However, that's not really true. Some of these have been there for some time. They want to stay as one-person companies, but the pressure is still the same. The variety of work is still the same. And the uncertainty is even worse when you don't have a team. Many a times people spend really, really long hours. People forget to drink water. People forget to take rest. They're addicted to so-called work. They feel that just 1 more hour could add to the revenue, and that actually also brings in the next topic about personal sacrifice. It's not just the person themselves, but their immediate family, their extended family, their friends who they might not have met since ages, and or when they meet, either there would be a money related discussion or something, a substance abuse or something. I mean, even if it starts as a harmless fun, it can quickly spiral somewhere else, and health starts deteriorating. I mean, if it is muscle related, or if it is nutrition related, if it is sleep related, if it is focus related, it can all start creating symptoms of generalized anxiety. Now, we understood that anxiety is generalized anxiety can be simply described as uncontrolled worry. We all worry. There is a purpose to worry. Worry was there just so that we stay on the right track, so that we don't. I mean, if you did not have a worry, you would not be worried about quality, you would not be worried about timelines and performing and so forth. But when it becomes uncontrollable because of these reasons that I have on screen, whether it is responsibility driven, high stake, uncertainty, long hours, personal sacrifice, it's not helping us. There is no point running a company, running a team, running a large business or a small business if these factors are coming in view. I've not even spoken about the cognitive biases that we have seen in other webinars and workshops. In all this that you see, there are biases that come in. Some people have over generalization. Combine that with uncertainty, and it can really spiral into general anxiety. Some people can have some version of a bias, catastrophization, and so forth, and it can actually start playing with you. What are biases? Biases are like filters. If you wear if you wear blue colored goggles, the world looks blue. So if you have a bias of, let's call it catastrophization, you start seeing the worst in every situation, and all of a sudden everything looks wrong. Catastrophization is the worst version of overgeneralization in that case. There are, of course, other cognitive biases that marketing companies use for a good reason and so forth. In fact, cognition, which comes from recognition or giving meaning to something, was meant to be a good thing. You could jump to conclusions for a good reason so that your brain would be more powerful and process more information. But when we jump to conclusions for a wrong reason, whether it is dealing with a financial risk or something, that leads to incorrect results, that leads to distance between your value and the result, and finally it leads to you not being happy, and that leads to anxiety. So you see the chain, and when it repeats again and again, it becomes uncontrollable general anxiety. So here are the generic causes, and in fact, there was a time where I was running marathons and having general anxiety, and doctors were suggesting that I'm completely fine. Well, it can be coming from a completely different source, that the physical health might be fine, but some of the reasons could start directly from health imbalance. I know someone who has 7 coffees before 10 a.m. in the morning, and not on purpose, but unconsciously, he was not aware of it. And when we started putting a tick mark for every coffee, he himself was very worried. Why is he having 7 coffees just while having a chat? And that can actually trigger nervous responses that make you anxious. Similarly, lack of water, lack of sleep, lack of specific nutrition, depending on the season and the country you are in, lack of specific vitamins can create general anxiety. And that is what I have mentioned about health imbalance. Chronic stress, if you have not addressed stress, if you have not processed it, if there is no support system for helping out, it starts creating symptoms of generalized anxiety. Trauma can come back. Sometimes we don't even know that that was a trauma. We think trauma has to be extremely, extremely worrisome, but for some people, even small things could be traumatic. And something which is traumatic for one person may not be traumatic for someone else. So we don't know what's going on in the other person's head, how they have processed it, how they perceive it. In fact, I know someone who was afraid of doors, and it used to create sneezing and wheezing and so forth. And for an outside person, it could be very silly, and for a physical reason, it could be like hay fever or something like that. But this person was traumatized because of something that happened in his childhood, as far as doors were concerned, and that stays. Childhood trauma definitely stays unless processed. That brings us to childhood abuse or childhood experience. I mean, the last call, if you have been following us, was about abandonment. Abandonment is mostly in childhood, when we think that if we don't be a people pleaser, if I don't perform well, I mean, this person will leave me, and that comes because when you were a child, somebody left you for, even if it was for half an hour, your primary caregiver left you saying that if you don't do the homework, you are in this room by yourself. I'm not talking to you, or you are not getting your favorite chocolate or whatever it is, and it can be traumatic as well. Life events like death, divorce, and loss. I mean, they're their own workshops in a way. It's quite deep, but they can cause sleeplessness. You keep on looking for answers in life, and our monkey brain remains engaged, thinking it's doing some useful work. In fact, the easiest thing we could be doing there, using the BMI framework that we teach, is to calm the body, engage the mind, and then use the intellect of the human. But yeah, that does cause some uh, symptoms of general anxiety, and unless we process it, it stays and becomes worse. Unmet emotional needs. We see the emotion wheel. In fact, today I will share the emotion wheel very, very briefly. We won't go detail into it, but as an example of the frameworks we use. But many a times, let me give an example. Lack of control could be misunderstood as lack of respect. So, a police officer who used to be in charge now is no more in charge and has retired, and he does not have control on a bunch of things in his life, let's say, and that might start being misunderstood as nobody respects me. And they're two different things, but our monkey mind doesn't get that in the first place, especially when we are feeling anxious. A good friend would have pointed it out within few seconds, but our monkey mind can confuse lack of control with lack of respect, but they're two different things. And that's a very simple one. I mean, when we come to romance and love, it could be even worse, because unmet emotional needs make us feel insecure and anxious about it. Cognitive and environmental factor, and I have put others because there are so many other factors that could be leading to similar kind of symptoms. But cognitive and environmental factor could be a big factor. I know someone who stays near a factory, and the pollution, she was allergic to a specific element, and that caused symptoms of general anxiety, which they did not know. And when we were having a chat, the fact when she mentioned that each time I come here, I get sneezing, and that led to one discussion after the other. And later, she was diagnosed that simply moving away from that particular, within the vicinity of that particular factory, would help. I don't know what happened next, but it was a very direct example of environmental factor. Similarly, somebody staying next to the railway station, and even during sleep, they're listening to trains and buses and so forth, can start causing lack of sleep, and then hence anxiety comes in. If you can observe, none of those have even gone into the so-called mental health situation that you see in movies. I mean, as simple as living close to a railway station could create anxiety, and if we could recognize these things, we are far better. This is the situation where you can actually create a good amount of prevention for even before even it goes mental. Um, We'll share some generic examples of how to solve these situations. Of course, we have some specific frameworks. I'll show only two frameworks today. Each of these frameworks can have multiple sessions and multiple workshops, and 30-minute webinar is not enough time. But this gives a good understanding. And let me just see. Yeah, there we have the frameworks. The Before I start doing that, the main reason general anxiety should be dealt with is it's like a continuous sniffle. You start living with that flu and you say, I'm always like that, I'm always worrisome, or I'm always irritable. It need not be like that. We all deserve a good sleep, we all deserve peace of mind. We don't need to stay in that anxiety stage of anxiety. So think about it. And that shows what's the first step. Accept that it's part of life. It's all right. Anxiety had a purpose for it. It was meant to be good. If it is uncontrollable, it's not good. If it is harming us, it's not good. But the moment you accept that it's okay to have it and let me do something about it, it takes you to a different headspace. And I'm really giving a shout out to all the founders and directors and leaders, because you guys, you are all Superman and woman in your own roles, and many times we are taught, okay, pull up the socks and go deal with the situation. If you're leading a company, you have to be strong so that everyone else is strong. If even if there is ups and down in finances, ups and down in marketing, and so forth, or even health, we don't know. I recently talked to a CEO who lost a pet, and he did not have many people to speak in his life because he was the person who was the strongest in the company, and but he still need we still need to speak about losing a pet. It matters to life. I mean, we really need to share with someone, right? That brings me to self-care. On purpose, I put that icon of a home over there with a heart there, because many times people put different kinds of icons there. But self-care is not selfish. Remember that. Irrespective of how you have grown up, what people have taught you, self-care is like putting the oxygen mask in an aeroplane. And from the airline's perspective, and I'm a trained first aider, if someone is helping someone else without the oxygen mask, we might end up with two patients. But if someone is helping someone else with one oxygen mask, then there are more chances that we have one patient, the other person is helping, and finally the situation might be far better. It's like your own oxygen mask. How long can you go on ignoring the red flags that are coming before you say, oh, there was a burnout? Well, before that burnout happened, 6 months before, 12 months before, there were red flags coming. Start taking care of yourself, your sleep, your health, your finances, your respect. Pat yourself on the back. Pat your, keep being your own cheerleader, and you will be surprised that general anxiety just becomes a symptom after that, that you can be out of it within few seconds of self-talk and self-care. And many times when we talk about self-care, you have pictures of a spa or a holiday and so forth. It need not be that expensive or that complicated. You could just take some time off, have some time for yourself. You could always take a holiday or spa, go for a spa treatment or something. What I mean to say is self-care need not be complicated or expensive. Having a glass of water every few hours so that you take care of your own health itself is self-care. Switching off, in fact, that's one of the points underneath disconnecting, I'll come to that, is really one part of self-care. Founders, directors, leaders, delegate and collaborate. And for the control freaks in the audience, delegation is difficult, but it's a form of self-respect. It's also a form of increasing value in the company. I'm talking as an investor, a company which can run on processes, of course, giving a focus on people as well. But if a company can run when someone important is taking a day off for a valid reason, has far more value than if everything is done by those 2 to 3 people or one person, in fact, which is even worse. collaborate with people, delegate situations. We have a framework in another webinar where we share how to delegate, how to decide the criteria of delegation, and have a quick look, and I can share a link underneath as well. But delegate to grow, collaborate to grow. Be realistic in your goals. Most of us are super achievers, founders and directors. We left jobs for a reason. You are trying to create an impact, you're trying to build something. At the same time, have a balance between what can be achieved and what cannot be achieved. We see in movies that Elon Musk has done this, or Steve Jobs have done that, or this founder has done that. I mean, when you look at those stories backward, they look great, but for every such success, every day they had to go through things, and there are hundreds of failure stories of which there were no movies made because nobody would read those stories, nobody would be excited about that. But your life and your health and your situation is far more important, so be realistic in your goals. Use project management tools, use there are so many tools available to help with that. Disconnect every day, every few hours. And I put mindfulness on the same point, on with purpose. Main reason being, you disconnect to energize. And when you're mindful of things, you're focusing on the good things of life, even the simplest things of life, even as simple as how are you sitting right now? Is your teeth clenched when you're sitting in a meeting? Um, uh, Start observing the smallest of leaves without getting distracted. You're doing it so that you help your brain focus and feel better. That feel better is the KPI. If you're not feeling better, even with disconnecting or using mindfulness, which by the way are their own workshops, if you're not feeling better, it's not the right way of doing it. And it's you feeling better. You are at the center of everything. So that's your KPI for testing out. Seek support. Seeking support does not mean calling the NHS or the hospital. Seeking support means just chat with a friend. You need not chat about anxiety. You can chat about coffee. You can chat about a football game. When we are really, really busy, we try not to do that. We think that just another thing on the business might actually make the needle move, get the next customer, all problems will be solved. Seek support. Have a support mechanism. In many workshops, when we start a coffee session, people say, how can I talk about anxiety in front of others? And later, after a few sessions, that group has become their own support group in that company. 5 to 10 people chat about things and you know that you can talk to someone without judgment. It need not be your family member. It might be your family member if you have them listening to you. It can be somebody completely um, unrelated. And you can call us and we can help. Two frameworks, like I mentioned. We will not go deeper into it. The main reason I'm sharing this is it will help you implement this acceptance, self-care, realistic, etc., and bring back your brain to some version of control and action. And the first framework is actually called that purpose, control, and service, or direction, action, and value. Keep an inventory of small things of life that give you purpose and direction. I'm not talking about winning the Nobel Prize or winning the lottery or something of that kind. Even if you made a small sandwich, did it give you a sense of purpose? Even if you're eating healthy, does it give you a sense of purpose? When we're talking about control or action, what can you do about that situation? People who are feeling anxious surprisingly could be surprisingly could be better drivers just because they're so focused on driving correctly, but the brain is actually in charge and it makes them feel in control. I have a friend who makes amazing salads. She takes one fruit at a time, takes the time to cut it, wash it, create a nice flavor, and mix things in the right proportion because we start getting control out of that, and it's a really good remedy to generalized anxiety. Now, I'll give an example that will explain the third point. Whatever you do with this micro purpose or micro control, it should have some value to you or some sense of service. Meaning, I've seen many people, they start tidying up, they start organizing things when they're feeling anxious, which is actually having a sense of purpose and sense doing something about the situation. However, how long can you keep tidying up? In fact, that itself leads to procrastination. Before you start something big, you say, you know what, let me sort out all my emails and then I will start writing this. Well, you're just creating a delay mechanism. However, if whatever you are doing is having some value to you, you will love doing it, and at the same time you would have achieved something. For example, you did need to sort out your emails, but don't make it your coping mechanism. So purpose, control, and service, direction, action, and value. Make an inventory because your personal cheerleader will bring this in, and you will feel better when things are pulling you down. Again, big topic to go in, literally touching upon. The next one will be even briefer. This is the emotions wheel. When we initially say, I'm just feeling bad, just think of it. In fact, without going into the complicated steps of changing your perspective and so forth, just question yourself saying, am I feeling bad or was I just bored? Because bad could be bored, bad could be tired, bad could be stressed, if you see the link here. Or happy could be playful, happy could be trusting. They're two different things. Go a bit deeper. Was I feeling joyful or was I feeling confident? Two different things. As you start doing this, what you have done is you have interrupted the monkey mind. The moment you have interrupted the monkey mind, you see a different perspective. The human steps in. And the steps of general anxiety, you instead of feeling out of control, you start feeling in control. Your body relaxes, again BMI, calm the body, engage the mind, and then the human steps in with intelligent solutions. We have detailed workshops on these, and the emotions wheel is actually available for free if you Google it around. Hope that helps. I'm just looking at the list of questions. So just so that yeah, I make sure that I have generically answered all the questions. So yep, I looks like we do have all the points touched upon. If you see overwhelm, burnout, emotional breakdown, somebody is very balanced one day, all of a sudden they break down, or in fact, I had a colleague, I mean, a very intelligent person, and was having a very minor argument with someone, and all of a sudden scream like a child, and that's a symptom. He was not able to take anymore. Emotional breakdown was there. Worried about economy, money, relationships, and so forth. Uncontrollable worry. That's the basic word. Dealing with uncertainty. Drop us a line for a simple discussion or ask them to talk with someone. Just take them for a quick coffee or water or something, and say that we can talk without being judged. We just want to feel safe, is all. Everybody wants to talk. They're just worried that someone will judge them this way or that way. Believe me, it's a diminishing problem if we keep talking about it. And there were many things we were not talking 10 years ago, but today we talk about it. Why not emotional and mental health? Especially at general stage when you can actually do something more, you can prevent the rest of deterioration. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you for your time. This recording is going on multiple platforms so that you can have access to it completely free of anything. And yeah, today's topic was about founders and hidden general anxiety, some symptoms, some causes, some techniques to get out of it. Please share your comments below. Which one was your favorite? Do you have another technique like belly breathing or going for a swim or a run that helps? Can running become a coping mechanism at all? And have a think about it, and let's engage in the discussion. The more we talk, the better we feel, and this becomes a diminishing problem, a smaller problem, and we achieve more as founders and directors. Specifically for this episode is aimed at founders and directors. So thank you so much. If you liked it, please share. Please subscribe if you haven't. Does something to the algorithm so that the video can go to more people, the article can go to more people, others can benefit out of it. So thanks for spreading the love. Keep taking care of yourself. Thank you.